first speaker is going to be Patricia from Paderborn University.
Thank you for the introduction, and good morning, everybody. Today, I'm going to tell you about our research and what happens when users have a window into the massive data that is being collected about them. So spoiler alert is in the title, but let's unpack it. And data collection happens at a scale to provide new functionalities, new services, but this amount of data that is aggregated can be also abused and misused, and we have seen this in many different flavors. So discrimination, for example, related to gender or race or age, but we have other types of abuses like data leaks or targeting, identity theft, you name it. And there are two types of data. The data that we post more consciously, that we know what we are doing, and then the stream of data that is being collected implicitly as we go, as we browse our behavioral activity. And this tracking is pervasive, but this is also more difficult to understand for users. It's happening behind the scenes, and we need more transparency to grasp the concept. And it's reasonable that we don't understand it because the dominant way to get this information is by privacy policies. So basically, they tell us ex ante what is going to happen with our data so we can make an informed decision. But we know that in practice, this is very inefficient and highly unusable. Just to make the point even more clear, in this art exhibition, they decided to print the privacy policies of the most popular social networks, and you can see that the length next to a person is something unreasonable to read. But we now have transparency-enhancing technologies that are different, that can provide this information, not ex ante, but ex post, while you are using the service, or more real time. And these have potential for supporting the users in a better way, but they are understudied. So this is the focus of our work. And one such type of transparency-enhancing technology was rolled out by Facebook, actually in the wake of the Cambridge Analytica scandal, speaking about abuses. And what they do is showing you which activity was sent by other third parties to Facebook. And if you have Facebook for some reason, I really encourage you to try it. And basically, in the interface, you can explore activity, so you will see a list of companies that send your data, and you can scroll down and refresh, because the list is very long. Then if you want to know a little bit more, you can click on a specific company and see the number of interactions that have been sent. And if you really want to know more, you click on that company, for example, TikTok, what is being sent, but what you get is a generic message. So it tells you, it can be when you open the app or when you made a purchase. But you get this same exact information for any element in the list. If you really want to know what is happening, then you have to download the data export, which is a very beautiful JSON file or hundreds of HTMLs that you need to navigate yourself. And this information can get very personal. So there are recent reports showing that when you, for example, book an appointment with a doctor, your doctor's name or the illness that you are suffering can be revealed to Facebook. So we see some potential here. It's nice to have awareness, but we also see that the implementation in practice is not the best regarding usability. So we wanted to understand what happens when you expose user to transparency. We focus on Facebook, but the findings are potentially applicable to any transparency-enhancing technology. And our specific research questions were these three. So how does transparency affect users' privacy attitudes? Second, what are user reactions and intended behavioral changes after being exposed to transparency? And last, how usable is the transparency dashboard in supporting users to achieve their privacy goals? So the methodology to achieve this was an intervention study. We first asked our participants to fill some data about privacy attitudes with constructs related to trust and risk, comfort with data collection. Then we told them to use the dashboard with their own data and explore it freely, to come back after and fill a post-usage questionnaire where they again fill the privacy attitude, so we could see differences, significant differences, and we measure what are their reactions in terms of feelings, why they feel like that, and regarding usability, the system usability scale score, what they like, dislike, or suggest to improve. And we got responses from 100 participants recruited through Mechanical Turk. We conducted a full quantitative, qualitative analysis in the paper for more details, but here I can just pinpoint the most important findings. So let me walk you through it. Impact on privacy attitudes. We observed that participants vastly underestimated the number of companies sending information. When it comes to trust, there were significant changes. They perceived the social network as more honest, disclosing the data collection, but also there was a significant decrease with regard to the perception of the social network as predictable with their data usage. And overall, participants were significantly less comfortable with data collection after the study, after transparency, from 67% to 84%. Now, how did they feel? It was mostly negative. That was the predominant sentiment. And if I show you the top 15 feelings that accounted for most of the answers, in the top 3, what you see is surprise, shock, and worry. They were surprised by the number of third parties. Here you can see the screenshots that they uploaded with the summary of the number of entities sending data. You see numbers as big as 1,000. And the average for each user was around 425 companies sharing their data. But surprise came not only because of the number of companies, it also came in relation to finding unexpected or unknown companies sending their data. This is a very representative quotation of this feeling in which the participant was really surprised to find an entity considered reputable, like the bank, in between these entities. If I can trust anyone, it should be my bank. So beyond surprise, I mentioned 2 other different feelings, shock and worry. They were shocked by the realization of their privacy being blatantly violated. They were worried. In this case, the main reason was that they didn't know about the data usage. How is the data being used by the social network? After transparency, they reported higher likelihood to take protective actions in the form of seeking more information about the privacy features, configuring privacy settings in a more restrictive way, and removing Facebook partners. But even if they were surprised, shocked, and worried, they had this drive, this motivation to behave in a more private way. The main finding is also that they felt unable to protect themselves. There was a lack of usability for which they couldn't take this action. And again, this is one nice quotation that states, for 500 companies that I have in my list, how should I go about it? And this highlights the overcomplex nature of opting out and the desire by many participants to have this information being set on an opt-in basis instead of opt-out. So overall, the Facebook transparency dashboard was not really usable. It's considered marginally acceptable regarding the system usability score, which is slightly above average. So there is a lot of room for improvement. So when we hear statements that the future is private, I think that there is a long path to this future. And there's a lot that can be improved, at least in terms of privacy, transparency, as we learn from this work and other related work. So the question is, how can we better support people in understanding and controlling their digital privacy? And from the qualitative analysis of the answers given by our participants regarding their desires in this type of tools, we can categorize them in information control interface. Information we need to raise awareness about transparency-enhancing technologies. Most of our participants were active Facebook users, and they didn't know that the tool exists. And they wanted to know if there are similar kind of tools for other social networks or other services. Then they would like to have more detailed and accurate information, including purpose, how the information is used, what inferences are made, and what are the risks. Then, when it comes to control, they really have no choice. There are no reasonable, actionable means to exercise your privacy rights. We go back to the beginning. If they want to erase all these companies, they would have to read the privacy policies of each of these entities and try to understand how to withdraw consent for each of them. So here, a toggle button was one of the desires of the participants, so they could switch off all the data collection from one point. And these two, information and control, should be provided in a usable way. So the interface is also a key element. Information control should be easy to access, easy to understand, and we should use visualizations whenever possible. This is something that is remarked also by the GDPR, but we cannot find that implemented in the wild. So as one of the final learnings, I guess you are not surprised that current consent-based schemes don't work, but I hope that we are still shocked and worried that this happens and want to change it, providing new solutions. So I would be happy to answer any question and get in touch after the conference. Thank you for listening.
Great. Thank you very much, Patricia. And we already have our first question, and it's from Serge, and he's within a microphone reach, so I'm going to let you read it out loud.
Great talk. Given the number of participants who said that they, plan to take some sort of action based on what they learned, have you thought about doing some follow-up work with them to see, X days later, did they in fact take any actions and what those actions were?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because we, in this study, only measure intention, which is, of course, a prerequisite to take action, but it can be more understood as an upper bound. Then you really don't know if they took action or not until you measure. So actually, yes, one of the future lines could be to see if they actually do it, and if not, what are the factors having an impact in that behavior, because we can already see that the usability is really low for them to take action. So maybe even if they have the intent, we really need to get to some better solutions for them to take action. And then there was also in the comments, in the qualitative analysis, that they felt that even if they were able to protect themselves in this network, they would have to do it for every service, and that's too much. Thank you for the question.
I have one more question from Vivek, who says, I'm surprised that users have hundreds or thousands of companies reporting information. Is it the case that all Facebook advertisers that users interact with are also included on this list if they also report conversion rates back to Facebook?
So can you rephrase it or repeat it? Because I didn't understand the last part.
So I was just trying to understand where that figure comes from, where you have sometimes hundreds or thousands of companies reporting information, because users probably aren't logging in with Facebook on thousands of platforms. So I was wondering if all Facebook advertisers are basically included in that number as long as they're reporting some conversion rates or something.
Okay. We didn't collect the data set of companies that were sending the data, because for the goal of the study, it was enough to know the amount. Looking into personal files and trying to understand apps that you have in your smartphone or any website that you visit, which can amount to a very large number, those are included. About advertiser, I cannot really tell based on this small data. Thank you.
And one last question that I want to ask myself. I really liked how you talk about this control that people lack and suggested some suggestions. And I was wondering if you can talk about how tools can be reactive, so people found information through transparency and some tools can help there, but there might be proactive tools as well where they set some of these preferences up front. And I'm wondering if you've thought about the distinction and whether one or the other might be more effective.
Yeah, I think that's another full study. That's a very good question. What we observed from the answers is that they would like to have some type of notification, like to see what happens with the information real time, not having to go and check the number of companies and what they are doing by themselves. So at least proactively being triggered by the application to go check it and maybe have some suggestions. But we didn't explore that further. So at least there is a wish for people so they don't get lazy or they need to get the motivation to go and check, to have some type of parsing before and digesting that information and making push notifications to them. Then how to design for that has some complexities, but yeah, it's a really interesting line.
Well, thank you very much for that great answer and your fantastic talk, and let's thank the speaker one more time.
Thank you.